Aaron, help us understand what this new bundle is.
So essentially, this bundle is for the first time Microsoft combining Office 365 with 365 Copilot, which is the AI product powered by OpenAI and Anthropic models that they have been selling as a separate add-on for about 3 years now. And specifically, this combines those two products as well as some cybersecurity tools and a new piece of software that's kind of geared towards managing AI agents, and it's a bit steep at $99 per user per month. But this is essentially the first time that we're seeing Microsoft try to present, AI plus Office as one single bundle to customers in an attempt to get, Office subscribers that are already paying for one of those things to spend more money.
So I just want to understand. So before this bundle, so there was one offering for the Office suite of products, which was Microsoft Word, PowerPoint, Excel, et cetera. And then there was a separate subscription for Copilot, and now they've joined them together.
That's right. Plus some additional cybersecurity products and this new kind of agent product.
Okay. And so how much were the two subscriptions separately before, and then how much is the new bundle?
So the kind of most expensive version of Office that you could get before, which also had some cybersecurity software, that was about $60 per seat per month. And then Copilot, the AI tools, was a $30 per seat add-on. So those combined would have been about $90. This new bundle is even more expensive than that. It's $99 per month because they're adding this Agent 365 product, and even more cybersecurity software.
Okay, but the whole point here is that you can't get the Office subscription on its own now. You have to pay up for the Copilot bundle.
You can get it on its own, if you want to, and I think, from what I've heard from customers, a lot of people are still planning to do that. Essentially, this is just kind of a carrot for customers to buy both of them together by, rolling in some additional products and this new agent software, which I'm hearing could potentially be of interest to customers who are thinking about, deploying their own AI agents and want to make sure that they can get the, cybersecurity and compliance protections that they might already be getting from Microsoft for other types of products to apply to their AI agents.
And I want to return to a question that you've explored in your reporting, the question around how much use people are getting out of Copilot. Where are we on that issue here of people actually getting value for that $30 a month subscription they were paying for?
So it's kind of an open question. What we do know is that as of January, Microsoft said that around 3% of the total number of customers that have Office 365 are also paying for the Copilot add on. So that's a pretty small slice who are actually already paying for Copilot. I've also heard just from talking to customers that, there is sometimes a concern that you might buy, however many hundred seats of Copilot for staff at your company, only to find out that people aren't necessarily using them. And, it's my understanding that that also has been a key focus inside Microsoft is driving even more usage of Copilot. And, one thing that's interesting there is Microsoft has been kind of playing catch up with Anthropic, which has gotten a lot of hype earlier this year for their CoWork product. We actually saw Microsoft just yesterday announce that it would have its own version of Anthropic CoWork powered by Anthropic models inside of its Office 365 Copilot, which I think is, an effort to make Copilot even more useful to people and hopefully catch up on some of the, hype that Anthropic has gotten for that product.
And so just to confirm here, so this new bundle now it has the Office products, it has the Copilot, it has the security products, and it also has this CoWork product, which is it's literally just what Anthropic CoWork had, just under a Microsoft logo. Is that the idea?
Yeah, it's actually a little bit less advanced than what Anthropic has put out. Anthropic's product is meant to kind of automate any work that you can do on a computer and controls the mouse and keyboard similar to a human would, whereas this is just something that can do advanced tasks inside of Office 365 software, like writing research reports or compiling meeting agendas based on all of the notes that you have in your email, for example. And then additionally, another selling point that Microsoft is trying to get people to buy this bundle with is this new Agent 365 product, which is
Even more, even more.
yeah, it's essentially like a tool that's sort of meant for companies to keep track of, in theory, the growing number of agents that they're going to have and make sure that those agents, have the right permissions and have, I guess, like logins in the way that humans do. I think for the most part, that's still somewhat hypothetical for a lot of customers, but it is something that Microsoft thinks will be important soon.
So now with all of these features included in the bundle, from the customers you're talking to, is there appetite for this bundle? Do you think it's gonna catch on the way they hope?
That's kind of the big question. I mean, from what I've heard, um, a lot of customers are still not entirely sure how much they're going to need something like Agent 365 and whether that is a product that every employee should have access to, or if you just need to limit it to, for example, people working in your IT department who might need to keep a close eye on what AI agents are doing inside your systems. At the same time, I also have spoken to folks involved in negotiating software contracts who say it might be smarter for a customer to, ask to just try out one piece of this bundle at a time, such as the Agent 365 subscription before they go all in on the bundle. And the reason for that is that, the rule of buying software is that once you've bought bundled products, it's pretty difficult to unbundle them, which, basically can just lead to you essentially getting locked into a large number of subscriptions, whether or not you're actually using them.
Right. Very quickly, I want to pivot to a story that you published today, also on Microsoft. You wrote about the legal experts at the company that are helping them navigate their antitrust issues. Before we get to the experts, remind us about what antitrust issues we're talking about here.
Yeah, so this is actually a great segue because Microsoft is being investigated by several antitrust regulators in Europe, in the UK, Australia, as well as the FTC here in the US. And specifically, those regulators are actually looking at the ways that Microsoft bundles its software and prices them. With the allegation that competitors have made being that Microsoft essentially, uses its existing base of Windows and Office subscribers, which number in the hundreds of millions of paying users, and ropes those customers into using other products like AI or security tools or services on its Azure cloud by making it much cheaper to buy the bundle of those tools in tandem with the Office and Windows products that they already pay for. So it's interesting that we're seeing Microsoft essentially create a new bundle that includes AI since from my understanding, this is essentially what the FTC is currently probing as it decides whether or not to, you know, pursue an antitrust action against Microsoft.
And where are we in that case so far? What's the timeline?
Yeah, so I reported today that Microsoft has been asking competitors about Microsoft's alleged anti-competitive behavior in the last year, but especially in the last few months, I have heard that the FTC is essentially telling competitors to make sure that whatever they're submitting to the agency is like fully, written out in a very clear packet. And some people who are talking to the FTC interpret that to mean that the agency could be close to wrapping up its probe in the coming months. The next step after that would be for the FTC to vote, that the commissioners will vote on whether or not to actually pursue, an antitrust lawsuit against Microsoft. It could go either way at this point. We don't know whether that lawsuit will come to pass, but people think that that could happen in the next few months.
And so the people that you identified today in the org chart, you put a little mini org chart together of the people at Microsoft that are leading the charge against the FTC in this probe. I wonder what was the common thread between all the people that you identified, and what did you learn about how they're structuring their team?
Yeah, so Microsoft is very good at, hiring policy experts who have experience in the government, often in the regulatory bodies that Microsoft is contending with. So, for example, Nick Banasevich, who leads the antitrust org at Microsoft, was previously one of the top tech regulators in Europe, who actually led some of the European Union's investigations, antitrust investigations into tech companies. They also have, lawyers who previously worked at the FTC or at the DOJ doing tech antitrust action. And typically those people obviously bring a deep understanding of how these investigations tend to play out and how, Microsoft could best structure its arguments against allegations of anti-competitive behavior. And so we're seeing, people with those backgrounds being elevated to top legal roles within the company.
And Aaron, I just want to make sure I understand here. What is at stake here with this probe? We talked just now about the bundling that they are doing with AI, and this is a clear way that they're going to try to encourage people to adopt Copilot and really see the use of this software. I mean, this probe will still take months, maybe years to play out. I mean, what is at stake here? Would everything become unbundled? What could we see?
I mean, it is definitely possible. We have seen in the past, European regulators a couple years ago forced Microsoft to stop bundling its Teams messaging app with Office, because previously, whenever you bought Office, you would get Teams for free. Slack, which is now owned by Salesforce, lodged a complaint about that in Europe, and European regulators actually reached a settlement with Microsoft to stop bundling Teams. So I think, we probably wouldn't see anything that drastic come out of the FTC until after an antitrust lawsuit is filed. At the same time, I understand the FTC is looking into other questions like how Microsoft sells security software. So, they may potentially pursue remedies and like that would dictate the pricing for that type of product. It could take a lot of different forms, but unbundling in the past has definitely been on the table.
Great. Well, Aaron, I want to thank you for coming on. That is Aaron Holmes, our Microsoft reporter here at The Information.